Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Goldy Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC Vegas 79, we have Rafael Fiziev taking on Mateus Gamrot in a super fun lightweight clash on a decent 11-fight slate. You know, there are some decent scraps. It maybe isn't the one with the most name value in the world, but we have fights nonetheless, and I cannot complain. We are back at the Apex and ready for another full slate breakdown of both DraftKings and betting content. Before we do so, a couple things to mention. Again, everything should be timestamped down below, so if you don't want to hear me talk, because I know I talk enough, the timestamp should be down below. You can skip forward there, but I just want to mention thank you to everybody for 8,000 subscribers here on YouTube. It means a lot to finally, reach that milestone. I'm always looking forward to the next one. For those who are new here, this is kind of like my for fun page. I do my breakdowns here, betting, draft, can try to condense into one video, timestamp it, make it fun to watch, but also a ton of good information. But I do a ton of premium content with DailyFanMMA over there, as well as I work with Pub Sport Radios with videos on Wednesday, so I'm always over there hopping between a bunch of different platforms. This one is just me having fun one-on-one with the camera. I do these full card breakdowns as well as a new betting breakdown show, which is also live on the Plays Fades YouTube channel, typically around Thursday, sponsored by CoolBet there as well, so lucky to have them in my corner as well. And finally, I do Dana Contender Series breakdowns every even week with Liam Picks fights, so we'll be back on my channel this Monday. Be sure to check that out. With that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. We do have 11 fights to cover, so let's do that now. Let's not waste any more time. Let's do this. We get the fight night started with the 5-0 Montserrat Rendon versus the 7-1 Tamiris Vidal, and at first, I ain't gonna lie, I thought that was Montserrat Ruiz, and I thought we were gonna get some neck-tat girl go out there and put on one of the worst low-level fights of all time. Rendon's not too much better, to put it completely honest. These are two bottom-of-the-barrel fighters, in my opinion, but two fighters with completely polarizing styles. I think Tamiris Vidal is someone who is just a constant power threat. I don't think she's necessarily the best minute winner, but she's very powerful for this division. She has those switch knees, which she got her last win with. She has those flying knees and those powerful combinations in her hands, as well as a decent submission game. She is more of a finisher than she's a minute winner. Flip side, I think Montserrat Rendon, on the tape we do have of her, she's won all her fights by decision. She seems to be more of a minute volume winner that way. Decent 1-2 down the middle, decent boxing chops in general, and also decent fundamental ground game, but her wrestling doesn't seem too good. She doesn't seem to have the most physicality in the world, and although she does have decent volume and fundamental skill set, she lacks, the power threat. She lacks the main optics to go out there and beat this high level of competition. You add in the fact that she's not facing the highest class of competition, still newer in her MMA career. There are a lot of things we want to see improve from Montserrat Rendon. So this fight's pretty simple to me. We do have a clear, A side here, someone who has been in the UFC before, fought by a level of competition, and has more finish equity, to whom I'd like to promote and be the A side of this matchup in Tamiris Vidal, but nowhere near this minus 300 or this 9K price tag on DraftKings. I think that Tamiris Vidal still has a lot of holes in her game. Now, is Montserrat Rendon the nice person to really take advantage of that? Not necessarily, but would I be surprised if Rendon put on a boring fight, hit a 1-2 jab from the outside, and had the ability to win optics against Vidal here? Not really. And that may be worst case for those playing on DraftKings that wouldn't score very well, but my point behind saying that is I do not really want to trust Vidal at this price tag. I think there are better fighters on the slate to go out there and trust, but I will admit she is a pretty good optics winner, and she should have the finish equity in this matchup here. At 9K, I don't expect her to be too popular here considering some decent fighters on the slate, but she is someone who could be a good pivot GPP play considering her finish upside here. Flip side of things, like I mentioned, the line is wide on Rendon, so if you want to take a flyer, go for it, but without much finish equity, never had a finish in her life, don't expect her to come here, and without tons of volume or grappling success, at 7.2K, I think her win condition really scores around 50-60 points. This fight is not really one that I'm targeting in most of my lineups. However, I think Vidal is a decent GPP pivot, and betting-wise, this is not one I want too much involvement in. There are better fights on this card. And speaking of better fights, I don't know that this is one of them, because we do have the 14-6 Mizuki Inoue versus the 6-3 Hannah Goldy, and man, I try to be pretty positive and not really break down anybody, because I know anybody in this cage can really take me out, be a better fighter than I can, and I respect them. But that's all a fancy way of me covering my ass when I say that I think Hannah Goldy is one of the worst fighters we have in the UFC. I think she has very good can-crushing ability, meaning she is super physically gifted, very strong fighter. But aside from that, she is really slow to the punch, lacks a ton of volume, can be hit in her own right, isn't the best defensively, can be taken down. Hannah Goldy leaves a lot to be desired, to put it lightly. And of course, that girl could kick my ass. I mean, 115, I don't care. She's shredded, and that physicality is on our side here. But in a matchup against Mizuki Inoue, who, yes, we haven't seen in a long time, you have to expect that Mizuki is going to have a clear, just overall advantage in this matchup. I think Mizuki is going to be the way more superior striker. I think she's going to have way cleaner technicality on the feet, way more volume, way more speed and quickness to the punch here. And considering she's also the younger fighter who's only an inch shorter here, I don't expect that physicality to do too much of a problem. Adding the fact Mizuki's been a lifelong mixed martial artist and has fought a better level of competition, I do think all the stars are aligned to her side here. I also think she could have some takedown equity if she decides to go there. I just do think that she has such a clear speed and technicality advantage on the feet, she won't necessarily have to. So yeah, I think Inoue should win this fight. I think she is the rightful favorite here, but am I really in the spot to go out there and play Mizuki at 9.2K or parlay her at minus 250? There are so many question marks when we're talking about such low level WMMA that I don't really feel compelled to touch this fight at all. So yes, Inoue should win this fight at a very high clip. I think she has so many advantages here, and she is a far superior fighter than Hannah Goldy, who I don't really think is the best UFC caliber opponent. But considering this to come a multitude of ways, at 9.2K, it's hard to get to her. And considering the long layoff, it's also hard to parlay her or play her at such a hefty price tag at minus 250. There are better fights targeted on the slate. It's very similar to that first matchup. I heavily favor Inoue, and I do think she should win this fight at a high clip. However, from a DraftKings perspective, this isn't necessarily my favorite 9K fight on the slate just because, she doesn't have the most grappling upside, doesn't have the most finish upside. Good cash option, doesn't have the highest ceiling. With that being said, though, I just talked about all this stuff about how Goldy struggles and all this stuff. What she is, she's strong. And I think that she's not going to be winning any minutes here. Her path to victory is going to require either weight bullying here or latching onto something. And Goldy's one win in the UFC. It was a first-round armbar. Scored 97 points against Emily Whitmire. I don't expect that to be a high percentage outcome here, but it's a GBP play. It's a punt play at 7K because I think everyone agrees with me that Goldy's not that good. She is going to be a very good low-owned option if you want to go out there and pray for a miracle, because that's what I do think she needs here. But her win condition does score very well. However, just not one I think happens all too often. And guys, I promise there are going to be some better fights coming up, but this one doesn't really seem to fit that category. The 13-9 Jake Collier, 9-2 Mohamed Usman. I need to catch my breath because honestly, that's actually what they're going to be saying on Saturday. But truth be told, this is a sloppy heavyweight matchup to say the least. Jake Collier lost 4 of his last 5, is a blown-up 185er, showed really questionable cardio, losing a fight to Huggy Bear Barnett there. And with all these red flags we have on him, the questionable takedown defense, the questionable cardio, the questionable really frame for this division, I'm so tempted to pick him here. I think I actually might pick Jake Collier in this matchup. And that's going to tell you something right now. All right, it's kind of spoiled the pick here, but Mohamed Usman 9-2 is not something to really be all too proud of. He is a physical specimen. He will be the way better athlete here, and he is the true. Actually, he's not even a true heavyweight either, but he is the more so of a heavyweight here, filling out that frame a lot better than Collier will. Yes, brother of Kamaru Usman, he does have that on his side as well, and winner of the Ultimate Fighter, you got to give him credit there. He has not lost inside the octagon. Man, does he have his own issues. He is a horrible volume striker, and although he has a ton of power in his hands to lock out anybody's lights, on the feet, he can be hit, he can be out volume, and he can lose optics that way. On the mat, yes, I do like his wrestling, and he didn't show it all too often before that Tafa fight, but he showed that he was able to use it against Tafa to go out there and secure that victory. The reason he used it, though, was he was being hit by everything. He was being lit up and probably should have finished if Tafa wasn't so raw in the UFC. And that's kind of what it's leading me to here is, yes, Usman has the opportunity to either just blanket Collier for 3 rounds or find that knockout punch at any time, but aside from that, I don't think he has the tools to deserve being a minus 175 favorite here. I think Collier's going to have the way better optics in the strike and be the way faster guy to the punch, have the ability to rock Usman in his own right, even though Collier has no power for this division. But he's going to be so much faster, have so much better striking opportunities here to go out there, and I don't think this price tag reflects that properly. And yes, it's so ugly picking Jake Collier here, and it's not something I necessarily want to do, but he has the passive victory on the feet. I do think that even if Usman's able to get him down and control him early on, Usman's cardio isn't great either. I think Collier could still be there in rounds 2 and 3 to put a pace on Usman, and I do think that his volume, his striking accuracy, and technicality could pose a threat here. I think this line is just way too wide, and for that reason, I'm going to slightly edge toward the dog, although I get those taking the shot on Usman. I think if you're picking Usman here, you're relying on a power shot or his supreme athleticism and wrestling to win him this fight here, which I definitely think is a possibility. Just not something I want to trust a high clip. DraftKings-wise, because it's heavyweight slot fest, I do think Collier is live. I mean, in his 4 wins in the UFC, he scored 105, 80, 85, 102. Those are some decent scores for a 7.8K underdog, especially considering his opponent shown questionable chin, shown questionable striking defense. I do think he has a decently high ceiling in this matchup. Whereas Usman, you can see the same thing. Knockout power, wrestling upside. He could have success here as well. But considering how close this fight is to me, I don't feel convicted either way. I think this is a sloppy fight that you really could go without seeing in general. But if I had to pick one here, I think the line's off on Collier. I'll take the dog shot on him. Decent viability on DraftKings, but there are better fights in general. However, I don't mind this one in GPP. All right, we're slowly getting better here. 7-2 Jacob Malkoun, 8-5 Cody Brundage. Interesting relationship with both these fighters because Jacob Malkoun, man, I'm not a hater of Jacob Malkoun. I don't think he's necessarily that good, but he continues to prove me wrong. And what this guy does very well is he's super smart inside the cage. You cannot take that away from him. Super smart guy, knows what he has to do to get it done, and has fared well in the UFC so far. Great wrestler, control grappler that way, and that's really what he's limited to, because his striking is horrible. We saw him nuked in his first fight in the UFC, so his chin can be in question as well. But with incredible cardio, incredible wrestling, and good fight IQ, he could really have a decent chance to continue his success here in the UFC. He's facing someone, Cody Brundage, who is, let's say, different, right? Whereas Malkoun may not be the most fan favorite because he just lays and prays the decision a lot of the time, Brundage is an all-action guy. Killer to be killed. A lot of the time has led him to be killed, losing his last 3 all in pretty dominant fashion. But what this guy is super explosive. Very good wrestler in his own right. Not to the level of Malkoun, so I don't expect him to use that here, but decent submission game and a ton of power on the feet. Knocked out Tresean Gore with a jab pretty much. The guy does have power, and we saw Malkoun nuked here, so that's kind of going to play into the breakdown later. Overall, though, what we have is a guy in Malkoun who's going to be the far superior grappler, the much smarter fighter. He's not going to jump guillotine like 4 times in a fight like Brundage will. And a guy who I can trust to go out there and have success here. The problem is, the path to victory for Brundage isn't going to come in a striking-based decision. It's going to come in a first-round knockout, which could completely eliminate the floor that you would expect to have for someone at 9.5K on DraftKings Malkoun. So it comes down to a pretty simple breakdown, is if you want this fight. On one side of things, the 9.5K Malkoun has scored 131, 129, and 115 in his 3 wins inside the octagon. That is something you want to target, especially considering he's facing someone in Brundage who can be finished on the mat, who gasses out after a bit, whose cardio is not necessarily on par. But on the flip side of things, you have 6.7K, the cheapest fight in the entire slate, whose win condition is a round 1 victory. His 2 wins at the UFC have come in that first round, scored 97, 115 at 6.7K. That breaks the slate. Considering we just saw Malkoun, well, not just, but we did see Malkoun knocked out in the very first round and so lost. That is definitely a possibility. So with that being said, there's no debate. I do think Malkoun has more security here. I do trust him more to get it done. I do think he wrestles his way to a late finish or decision. However, that GPP viability is there for Cody Brundage. I want this fight from both sides. First round finish upside for Brundage. Wrestling domination upside for Malkoun. Either way, fun fight to target and better ones than the first 3 we had. Keep it rolling with the 32, 15-1 Tim Means, 16-7 Andre Fialho, very dynamic guy. Was on a bit of a roll for a while with a impressive performance against Pereira and then back-to-back first-round knockouts against Van Camp and Baeza, but slowly falling down. 0-3 in his last 3, all of them coming by later knockout, and that's kind of been his thing, is he's able to go out there and have really good success early on. A ton of power, phenomenal boxer with power in both of his hands, decent physicality as well, but after that first round, he loses the speed in his hands, he loses the pop in his punches, and he just deteriorates. He can be hit in his own right as well, and we've seen him lose these fights the later they go. Tim Means, veteran of the sport, is 39 years of age. You got to mention that because he's kind of deteriorating. He's not that same dirty bird we used to see, albeit it's coming to some decent competition in Holland, Griffin, and Morono recently. Now, with all that being said, this fight leads me to be one where I do think you have to have it on DraftKings, just because of the style that Fialho brings. Fialho has typically been a round 1 finish or bust kind of guy, and if he loses these fights, he's typically allowing a big score for his opponents on the return or able to get that late finish. For that reason, I do think Fialho is super live against an older fighter in Tim Means who does get hit as often as he does at 8.9K to score an early knockout, and that would score very, very well if he was able to do so. The problem is, I think this line may be wide for someone who does have all the concerns that Fialho does, and I think that as the fight goes on, Means could take over, making him a very, very live underdog in his own right. So give me this matchup. I do think both these guys have their paths to victory, whether it be Fialho early or Means wearing on him and getting after him late, but you're going to require trusting these fighters a lot more than I'd want to. And for that reason, this stays towards a GPP play and not towards a cash or betting play for me. I think Fialho has the tools to get this done early on, but will fade down the stretch. And although Means is an older fighter who can be hit, we've seen him be a dirty bird, be a dog, and go out there and win these matchups here. I do think he has the tools to get it done, and for that reason, will be a live underdog. I lean towards Fialho. He might pick to get it done. However, not with much conviction. Means' path to victory is there. He does have to survive the early onslaught, and for that reason, both these guys are good opportunities on DraftKings. However, not sure if I want to touch this fight from too much of a betting perspective. By the way, I have to go back on this. If this ruins the timestamps, I'm sorry. But fight doesn't go decision in Brundage Malkoun, plus money, plus 105. I just played that. Malkoun, although a decision machine, is facing a guy in Brundage who will bring the pace. It's either, like I said, Brundage early or Malkoun takes over, and Brundage does fade down the stretch. This should be way more than a 47% indication here. So give me the under. I do think that there's more ways to get this done than the line entails. But back to our normally scheduled program with a 13-2 Miles John versus the 9-1 Dan Argueta. For some reason it says Damn Argueta, and I don't know if there's a new name he's going by, but I think it's Dan Argueta here on Tapology. But Fun matchup. Two guys who are pretty fun fighters to go out there and watch, who do have fun styles, and who bring a lot of action towards the cage. I mean, Argueta's last performance, sure, a bit disappointing considering the way it ended, but super fun guy to go out there and watch. Very good wrestling pace as well. Brought that to Nick Aguirre. And he shows that he's got some good dog in him. Very well-rounded fighter, good boxing combinations, good cardio, good wrestling. Decent physicality as well. And although he can be beat in each one of those areas, I do think he can be out-wrestled. I do think he can be outstruck. He is so well-rounded, so fundamentally proven that I do think he can have success in this division. Miles John's fun too, man. He's 4-2 inside the octagon. Against his low level of competition, he's able to use his very good striking. And although it's maybe not the most volume, he's very technical, has a lot of power in his hands as well. And I do think he does have some wrestling in his back pocket as well. He mostly uses it defensively, which I think he's going to have to here against Argueta, but he does have that in his back pocket as well. He's very content to strike though, because he's very fundamentally set in stone. Very good counter as well, very good power. I mean, he knocked out Vidal with a nasty uppercut, knocked out Dos Santos in a very good boxing clinic there as well. And I think that overall, he is a very well-rounded fighter in his own right. We have two well-rounded fighters clashing. The one big difference we have here is Argueta's a guy who prefers to grapple, and John's the guy who I see preferring to strike. So how good is Argueta's defensive striking, and how good is Miles John's defensive grappling? The problem I have with Miles Johnson, and I think the reason why he's such an underdog here, is in his 2 losses in the UFC, he's been drowned. Repeated takedowns against him, pretty much dog walk towards a point where he just kind of shells up and gives up in that direction. I think the pressure of Argueta could be a problem here. Argueta likes to fight fast. I think that could pose problems for Chapo here, and for that reason, that is why Argueta is favored. However, I do think this line is way too wide, and for that reason, I'm tempted towards Miles John. I think gun to my head, I would still pick Argueta because he should have that cardio pace pressure advantage. I do think his striking defense is competent enough to put up with someone like Miles John. However, to have Argueta near minus 200 at this point, I think is a bit disrespectful considering how good defensively Johns has been and how much of a potent striker he is in his own right. I think as John does have an opportunity to get it done. However, the pick is still going to be Argueta. Super fun fight to watch here and pick, but I think DraftKings wise, you kind of got to lean Argueta, right? He's going to be the guy with the more proactive wrestler. He scored 101 against his win against Aguirre there, who is a fun fight as well. I think the way he's going to win this fight is a wrestle-heavy, high-pace approach here, which is going to score well. Johns, although a very, very live underdog, don't get me wrong, isn't the best DraftKings scorer. 55 in his last win, 87, 81, 64. Those 4 scores are not going to be optimal here. So although he does have a very good chance of being a live underdog, not to the point where I think he's going to get in the optimal lineup all too often. The line's wide, but on DraftKings, I do want Argueta. Aside from that, maybe a shot on Johns. The line keeps going up on the money line, but super fun matchup here. And then we get to the main card, maybe my favorite fight, the 14-6-1 Charles Jourdain versus the 16-4 Ricardo Ramos. Love Charles Jourdain. Canadian fighter, super high action, violence, and a super fun guy to watch there. Incredible striking, incredible cardio, incredible determination. And I love to see this guy inside the octagon. He kind of turned a new leaf last time against Con Gracie, fighting smart. He didn't want to go out there and put on the most exciting matchup. He wanted to win. And that's exactly what I want to see from Jourdain, because he has all these tools, but he just brawls because he's a fan favorite fighter. He's someone who wants to go out there and put on a show, and he's had good success in doing so, but I think he could do even better if he prefers to win, because he could fight maybe a more boring way and win more fights here. Flip side of things, Ricardo Ramos, very good fighter in his own right. Been inside the UFC forever, very well-rounded, decent grappling, decent striking as well. Good power. I mean, we saw a good knockout for him last time out. Maybe I struggle a bit with the scales here. However, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. Let's cap this as if he makes the fight. And if he does, man, I got to go with the Canadian. Super close line fight, and I do think it's about right. Sure, there is a world where Ricardo Ramos can go out there, use his grappling to a high extent the same way that Burgos was able to, or people who have controlled Jourdain before. But I don't think it's that too high of an indication. Jourdain has shown some decent fundamentals if he's willing to go to them. Some good jiu-jitsu as well off there. He seems to be working on the right style of things. And on the feet, I do think he's going to be the way faster striker with much better combination, much better optics that way, beating Ramos to the punch. The problem I have here with Ramos is although he is a very good wrestler and grappler, if he decides to go to it, he's only gone to it once in his last 4 fights. But yes, he landed 8 takedowns against Algeo. That is something to mention. But against Tuhugov, against Murphy, people who you would expect him to go out there and wrestle with, he didn't have any success doing so. And for that reason, I don't know how much success he's going to have here against Jourdain, who I think is a step up from Algeo, who's able to take down, from Garagora, who he took down as well. It seems when he's taking a step up in competition, he's preferring to strike it. I think if he does so here, he does lose. Jourdain's super slick, super technical. I do think he has more paths of victory on the feet, and I do think he's competent enough on the mat to put up with that decent grounding of Ramos. Give me Jourdain fighting smarter, wanting to win, but still putting on a fun show in the process here. Give me Charles or Jourdain. DraftKings wise, I think Ramos is a very sneaky underdog because at 7.9K, he's had performances where he's landed 8 takedowns, where he's had success in that way. And I think if he wants to beat Jourdain, wrestle heavy approach. I just don't think it happens all too often for that reason. There are better fights in this card. Jourdain is a pretty good historical DraftKings score. I mean, 93, 92, 91, 117, 118. So I think his volume could help him get towards that optimal lineup. However, his floor is not necessarily there considering the fact that At the end of the day, as much as I'm saying it probably won't happen, Ramos does have some wrestling equity, which would kind of stifle the game plan of Jourdain. I really like Jourdain in this matchup. I really like both sides from DraftKings perspective. However, I'm just erring on the side of caution, considering both guys have their flaws, and this is a very close matchup. But give me Charles Jourdain. I do think he gets it done. Then the 9-2 Brian Battle versus the 10-2 AJ Fletcher. Very fun matchup. Met Brian Battle over there in Nashville. Super nice guy. And a guy who's had some decent success down here at 170. Super technical striker. Very good high kick. Knocked out Takashi Sato in a highlight reel and a half. And he has shown good fundamentals out there. AJ Fletcher is maybe the opposite of Brian Battle. He's more of a bull in a china shop. Raped guy, very aggressive, good wrestling success. He prefers to wrestle than to strike, but he's more front-loaded. Whereas Brian Battle has the pace, the cardio to break you over the stretch and has the well-rounded skill set to put up with this higher level of competition. I think you're kind of getting towards my side on this one as I am picking Brian Battle. I do think he has better volume, better striking, and decent enough takedown defense to win this fight here. And as well, if you consider the fact that he will build as the fight goes on and AJ Fletcher will typically slow, I kind of got to like Battle and Battle as the fight goes on. But DraftKings side of things, I do think Fletcher is very live. Because at 7.5K, he's shown the ability to land a ton of takedowns, have success in doing so, and his physicality could be a real problem here for Brian Battle. With that being said, though, the way I see this fight going on is some early success for Fletcher, some good takedowns, some possibilities there, but as the fight builds, Battle's gonna have the striking upside. I think he's gonna be able to fend off the takedowns the longer this fight goes, and he is my preferred side to win this fight. But considering the pace I think that Fletcher brings, it is a good fight target on DraftKings. I mean, Battle has also shown some good scores in his own right. Aside from his one loss to Fakhretdinov, who's a beast. I mean, 126 against Green, 127 against Sato, 97 against Urbina, 87 against Gore in a fight that, I mean, there's no way Fletcher brings that slow of a pace. So Battle has some good upside as well. He's someone I like at this price tag. But I mean, Fletcher's also alive. A ton of power, almost knocked out Lusa there as well. Showed some grappling success against Emmelsberger. Some good transition submission grappling against Thremba Garimbo there. He has the tools. I just think down the stretch, he's going to be the inferior striker, inferior cardio. Battle should take over. It's going to be Brian Battle. Then we keep it going. 16-3-2 Marina Rodriguez versus the 18-11 Michelle Waterson Gomez. We've seen this fight before. I know. That's what your all's thinking is. We saw this fight before. Shouldn't play out the exact same. Well, 9.3K last time they fought. Well, she scored 83 points. Difference is now we have a 3-rounder. Now have all these different tools going on. Rodriguez is on a 2-fight losing streak here. Who knows what's going to happen? Are they just trying to get her a win? That might be the way to go, because when we broke down this fight the first time, Michelle Waterson Gomez was taking this on short notice, and Rodriguez was just able to piece her up from range, considering she has the length, she has the power, and the technical kickboxing. I think I actually took a dog shot on Waterson by decision at like plus 700 last time they fought, just because I thought she'd have the ability to mix in some takedowns, have success there, and she didn't. However, she did put up a competitive fight, scored 50 points, only one takedown, and since then has kind of lost her last 3. So we have 2 fighters rematching after losing streaks. One of them is going to get back in the win column, right? Because these girls did main event a fight card in the past, so maybe they are trying to get them back on track, and I do think it's Rodriguez's side to do so. She still has a physicality advantage, and last time I worried about her cardio, 3-round event here, she's going to have the ability to keep Waterson Gomez at range, pick her apart the same way she did in the first one, and use that power to out-kickbox the Karate Hottie. And the Karate Hottie may have some wrestling success here. She may have some opportunities to do so, the same way Jandiroba did, the same way other fighters were able to Rodriguez, but I don't think it happens at a high clip, and I do think the pick here is Marina Rodriguez. The problem I have here is Michelle Waterson Gomez is so tough. Do I want to play Marina Rodriguez at 9.3K? I mean, aside from her first fight in the UFC, has never scored above 88 points. And she isn't historically the best DraftKings scorer. So I'm kind of staying away from this one here. I think this is a fight I can definitely look past. It's not the one I'm looking forward to the most, I'll tell you that. We've kind of seen it playing out before. I do think Waterson Gomez may be live to land some takedowns and close the distance here, but I don't think it happens until I have a clip. Fade fight on DraftKings. Don't know if I want to get them in the betting market either. Just a pass fight in general. This co-main event one, though, is fun. You have the 15-1 Bryce Mitchell, 17-6 Dan Ige. Dan Ige won back-to-back fights against guys who wants to wrestle, and this is going to be his biggest wrestling test to date. I mean, Bryce Mitchell's a guy who just wants to go out there and wrestle, and he got Ilya Taporian last time. I'm not going to put that past him. But before that, was just tearing through everybody. He's shown that he has a great ability to go out there and wrestle at a high pace. His last 3 wins scored 4 takedowns, 7 takedowns, 3 takedowns. The guy is just a very active wrestler with farmer strength. That's really the best way to put it. And I do think he's had the ability to go here and have success against Dan Ige, someone who has been taken down and controlled in his losses before. Against Evloev, against Korean Zombie, he was taken down. He was held there. And I do think that's really plays into Mitchell's game plan. I do think he should be the favorite in this matchup. To this extent, maybe not, because Mitchell's head seems to be in different places now after taking that losses. We don't really know. And Ige does have a ton of power and is pretty stocky, right? Although he is easy to control on the mat, decent takedown defense, will be winning the striking exchanges. And it is a clear striker versus grappler matchup. And although I'm talking about the fact that Ige may be live, there's no question that to me the pick is Bryce Mitchell. I like my wrestlers, especially on DraftKings side of things at 8.8K. We've seen him go out there and put up some great scores. 123, 112, 108, his last 3 wins. He fights at a super high pace, has that takedown upside. And I do think if he wants to win this fight, it's going to come with takedowns and control time over someone like Dan Ige. However, considering how tough he is, considering the strength he has here and the control, I do think he wins this fight. However, close one. Ige is no scrub. You got to give the man his flowers. However, Mitchell's the pick on DraftKings. He's someone I'm going to pick to win this fight here. I'm actually excited to see this one go down. And then our main event, I am excited for this one. Super fun fight. 12-2, Rafael Fiziev. 22-2, Mateusz Gamrot. Man, does this feel like a striker versus grappler? Kind of does. Rafael Fiziev was on a quest for the top before losing to Justin Gaethje. Close fight. I had Fiziev. Gaethje's been on a tear recently too, so you can't really discredit him for that. Mateusz Gamrot, also a guy who's been on a tear. I think he, I don't want to say got lucky, but he got a bit lucky in a decision win there against Tarzukian, failed to Beneil Dariush, and then won a controversial one against Turner, one that I thought he clearly won, but you can make the account that he didn't land any volume. And the reason I say striker versus grappler is because Rafael Fiziev is a guy with incredible takedown defense, is an incredible striker up there, versus a guy in Gamrot who scored 4 takedowns, 6-4 in his last 4 fights. In his 7 fights in the UFC, he scored 26 takedowns. That's a very high score, and I really think that's going to be the story of the fight here. Can Mateusz Gamrot get takedowns? Because I think if he's able to have control time there, he might have some success. The problem I have here is Fiziev is just so stocky, so strong. Have the ability to get up from these bottom positions, have the ability to stuff the takedowns in the first place. I mean, it's really the guy who averages 4.54 takedowns for 15 minutes versus the guy with a 90% takedown defense. That's the tail of the tape here. So yes, whoever's able to get off in their game plan is going to be able to have success, but I think I'm going to have to slightly lean towards Fiziev here. I didn't like the optics that Gamrot gave off when he couldn't really get those takedowns against Dariush. And I know this is a completely different stylistic matchup, but we know that the power, the technicality, the striking is going to be there for Fiziev, and I think he's going to be able to touch the chin of Gamrot. Yes, Gamrot's super durable, and I think that it's going to be a war of attrition if he wants to get a finish here, but the striking is no joke. However, same way I've talked about a few fights before, on DraftKings, the side here might be Gamrot. His path to victory is going to be breaking Fiziev down the stretch, a guy who has tired in fights before. Looking to get him to the mat, wear him down, and break him. And I do think Gamrot has the will and determination to be able to do so. So it's a really close one, and I do think this line should be closer than the way it is. However, if we're sitting here, gun to my head, I'm going to pick someone in Rafael Fiziev, someone who I can trust to go out there and win the striking exchanges, someone I can trust to go out there and have a decent account for himself in the feet, and someone who I just like to back. However, on DraftKings and in terms of seeing how close this fight is, I think this fight is very, very close, and the Gamrot side may have some viability to it. In his last 5-round decision win, he scored 106, and that's against a better wrestler in Tarzukian, so I do think that his path to victory scores very well. The pick from a pick perspective is going to be Fiziev. From a DraftKings perspective, I'm going to have more ownership towards Gamrot. Super fun, high-level technical matchup, and I'm excited to see it play out. I might just put my feet up, watch such a high-level main event, not really bet too much on it, but it is a fun one nonetheless. That's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Let me quickly run through my quick picks. I'm taking Rafael Fiziev in a nail-biter, very, very close fight. Bryce Mitchell, Marina Rodriguez, Brian Battle, Charles Jourdain, Dan Argueta, Andre Fialho, but another very loud dog in Tim Means, Jacob Malkoun, Jake Collier, Mizuki Inoue, and Tamirez Vidal. A lot of close fight with live underdogs, but those are my gun-to-my-head picks. DraftKings-wise, I like that main event, especially from the Gamrot side of things. My favorite fight to target is that Malkoun-Brundage fight, considering their viability. I also like Mitchell. I like Argueta. I like Battle. Those are the fights I like a lot. GPP-wise, get a bit different. Up top, Fialho, Vidal are definitely there as well. I also think that Jourdain Ramos fought at a high pace, and Ramos is also an underdog I'm considering. Other underdogs are like Jake Collier's there, Gamrot. All 3 of those are very high upside. Fletcher, Means, also good option in the mid-range. Then the punt plays are Goldy if she racks up something miraculous. I don't think it's a high clip. And then Brundage, whose win condition is a very early finish. Reignmakers-wise, Malkoun, Fialho, Mitchell, Battle, Argueta, Gamrot. Those are the highest ceilings, in my opinion, on the slate. And then betting-wise, I don't really have much locked in yet. Aside from the bet I already mentioned, taking the under in the Malkoun-Brundage fight, that's the only one I have locked in so far. Been focused a bit on Contender Series, so I might get to around to track my bets there. Check me out on BetMMA tips as well, or my Twitter, where I'll post my full card of bets on Friday. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love. Hopefully you guys are able to pick up on the knowledge and the information I was saying throughout the video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave in the comment section down below. Hope everyone enjoys the fights this weekend. Let's make some money, guys.